Lance, we are so honored to have you here. I am so touched by the people that have stepped forward, especially this year, to be club coaches, to coach in the environment and the difficulties and the challenges that we have this year. And I wanted to start off 2021, which I think is going to be a much better year and a year of hope and a year of healing and growing. And I wanted a treat for our club coaches. So we discussed during our committee about whether or not we could get someone of your caliber. And then when you said yes, it was like my first dream of the year coming true. Now, Lance Miller was the 2005 public speaking champion of Toastmasters with his speech, The Ultimate Question, which we got to watch because some of us came on here early.
Okay, cool.
So the early bird does get the worm. And since then, he has done over 5,000 speeches in 60 countries. He speaks to leadership and training. And I thought this was good, overcoming failure and adversity. And I think as club coaches, we're dealing with adversity. Now, I have to say, I checked out your website and I love the quote. The greatest wasted natural resource in the world is the untapped human potential that resides in each of us. I
Thank you.
think that was an amazing quote. Like it was so relevant to what we do as coaches. And we are so excited to have you here with us. So I would ask that everybody please welcome our speaker, Lance Miller.
Well, thank you, Katrina. And it's nice to be here. I want to keep this relatively casual or informal. There's some specific points I want to go over with you that I think are fundamentals to running a Toastmasters club and also just being successful in life. And I think those two go parallel each other. And that's exactly what happened to me. But I want to also have plenty of time for some Q&A and address specific issues that you're having. One of the first things that I want to talk about, though, is what the Toastmasters Experience is. And the fact, in my experience, I've been in the organization a little over 28 years. And as I was saying, we took a struggling club of 12 active members and we built it up to 95 members back in the 90s. And Toastmasters used to rank all the clubs internationally. And when we started, we were like 6,000 in the world or something. And 5 years later, we were the #4 club in the world in Toastmasters. And I really learned how to put a club together and to keep people winning. And that was not something I did. And this is probably one of the first key points where you learn in leadership, but also we learn about the Toastmasters experience is no one person builds a club. And quite honestly, if we'd done exactly what I wanted to do, we probably would have never built a club. It really took a cumulative effort of all the minds and working together and everybody contributing. And the fact was everybody in that club wanted to be a top 10 club once we started really making the headway on it. So and that's one of the critical components to really building a successful Toastmasters club is getting that member engagement involved in it. And I like to ask this question because especially my live seminars, but I'll go, who here's ever been vice president of education? And most of the hands go up in the room. And I said, okay, what happens in May when you're vice president of education? And I don't have to dig for this. People go, you're begging people to finish a speaking level so you can get your DCP points. And I said, yeah, you're begging people, and you call them up on the phone and they sort of have a nasal tone and they go, well, I don't really want to do it. I want to do it when I want to do it. I don't want to be pushed into it, And I have a tendency to want to just take those people out in the street and shoot them in the back of the head and get rid of them because I find them very, very counterproductive. And I just want to share with you what happened in my club. In May, the members of the club were calling the vice president of education, and they were going, you haven't given me enough speaking slots for me to finish my CC. I'm not going to be responsible for this club not being a top 10 club. You find me speaking slots. And here's the point was the members in the club were pushing. It was like I'm watching football right through that door. You keep seeing my business partner come in, giving me updates on who just fumbled. But everybody on that team is pushing to win. Everybody on that team is pushing to score, to be the best they can be. And that's what we did, what we put together with my Toastmasters club, that everybody wanted to win and everybody wanted to be a top 10 club. But when we started, not everybody wanted to be a top 10 club. There were people going, oh, no, I just like coming to the meeting. And we sort of had this, the club was failing. We had 30 members and it was 12 where when I came, we had about 30 coming to the meeting. About 6 months later, we had like 12 coming to the meeting. And as I say, I like to say that wasn't because I joined the club, but we sat down one day and we're trying to figure out what to do. And somebody said, well, let's be a top 10 club. And we go, that sounds fun. Yeah, there, let's go. And somebody else said, let's win with Toastmasters, or let's go do something else and win with it. But I don't want to sit here and run a hospice Toastmasters club. You know, that's where we hospice Toastmasters. The member's comfortable until the club dies, you know, and there's a lot of clubs like that. So I want to just start off with what I've seen in, and also just so you know, my club has been, that was 1999. We were the number 4 club. We're President's Distinguished all 10 points every year. We just in December, our President's Distinguished this year with all 10 points. And here's what I know. Clubs don't fail on their own. They're allowed to fail. They fail because nobody intervenes in them. Nobody says we're going to make this a success. And one of the things as a club coach that you really have to work with is the motivation of the club you're working with, because the club you're working with has to want to win. They have to want to have a Toastmasters club. They have to want to be a Toastmasters club. And what I witnessed in my club and what I've witnessed since outside of Toastmasters, because my whole game in getting into Toastmasters was I like speaking. I wanted to be a better speaker. And then I got in and I found out I could run an organization, and I wanted to be, and I had done a lot of leadership at that point, but I wanted an organization to run. I wanted to build something big. I wanted to make things work. I was excited to do that. And I wasn't getting those opportunities at work. And I remember I came in and I was thinking, you know, if I can't do it in Toastmasters, I can't do it outside of Toastmasters. If I want to be successful in life and I can't be successful in Toastmasters, I'm not going to be successful in life, because it's a lot easier to be successful in Toastmasters than it is successful in life. And so my viewpoint was, if I want to be good at life, I need to be good at Toastmasters as the first step. And that was really a transformational moment for me, or transformational decision. So one of the things I would ask you to look at with the clubs you're working with, and is in talking to the members there, is addressing why are they in Toastmasters and what goals do they have? What do they want to achieve outside of Toastmasters? Because Toastmasters is not about being a great Toastmaster. That's not what the game is. The game really is, to me, it's a gymnasium, or it's an incubator, or an internship for your own personal success is what it is. And Toastmasters is a great place to come and screw up, and a great place to make mistakes, because we don't have any really bad consequences for that. You get an evaluation and a pat on the back, and we'll see you next week. You know, thumbs up. Hey, I know you screwed the speech up. You had a lot of awes, or you froze up there on stage, or you gave a horrible evaluation, or whatever. You were a table topics master or Toastmaster, and you totally screwed the timing up on the meeting. Hey, we still love you. Come back next week. That doesn't happen at work. That does not happen at work. And so I talk about Toastmasters being a great place to fail, a great place to come and make your mistakes, so you don't make them at work. And I try to find a personal reason that person should be in Toastmasters, and they should do Toastmasters to the best ability that they have. Now, I want to just sort of set the tone. There's 3 reasons I've found that clubs fail. And when I address these 3 reasons, again, mostly I've typically done live seminars with Toastmaster districts and things. People come up afterwards and they're going, we're doing 2 of those. A lot of times we talk about what the success is. Well, when I started talking about why they fail, people were going, oh my gosh, that's why we're doing that. So the first reason that I always say clubs fail is that nobody owns the club. And what I mean by that is that when I joined Toastmasters, I joined an organization and there were people already in it, and I assumed that they were more advanced than I was. So I was going to learn from them. So when there was a problem in the club, I didn't go, I have to solve that problem. I went, somebody should solve that problem. Somebody more advanced, somebody who's smarter than I am in the club should solve that problem. The problem was everybody who joined the club joined it, and there was somebody ahead of them, and everybody sort of came up with this somebody else's problem scenario, that when there's a problem, somebody should solve it, but nobody says to themselves they should solve the problem. And that's where I say nobody owns the club. Is in a business, somebody owns the business, and eventually it hits the business owner's desk and they go, we're going to solve this problem. And if you have good management around you, they hold the line and they start solving problems. What made my club turn around was there were 5 of us that met, showed up for the meeting one day, and that's all that was there. And we didn't have a meeting. We had coffee, and we sat down, we had that conversation I told you about, and we started to own the club. We started solving the problems of the club. We said, let's be a top 10 club, and yeah, let's see what we have to do. And we started solving the problems, and we started owning the success of the club. And one of the biggest things I've seen is that people just grossly underestimate what it takes to make a successful Toastmasters club. And I'm going to give you my philosophy, or my observation of life is, since we were little kids, we've been told to sit there and shut up. Our parents told us to sit there and shut up, and there was always dinner on the table, and and everything. But we learned that to let the big people or the authorities tell us what to do. We had 12, 16, 20 years of school, of teachers and schools telling us to sit in a room at a certain time, and this is what you need to do to succeed. And nobody typically is asking us to speak out or to solve problems on our own or to figure things out for ourselves. They're asking us to study what somebody else figured out. And we learn that if we do what the authorities say, that we will be successful. Then we go to work. And at work, they tell us what desk to sit at and be here on time. Don't rock the boat. And if we like you, someday we'll promote you. And nobody's encouraging you to stand up and to figure things out on your own. They're teaching you to stay with the program and don't rock the boat. Then we get into Toastmasters, and that if you just show up in a Toastmasters club and sit there like you're used, like we've been taught in life, your club will fail, because you have to make the club work. There is no higher authority in Toastmasters than you and the people in the room. And so you have to get your clubs to understand that their success is, quite honestly, the success that they're experiencing is a direct reflection of their ability to lead and organize. And you're there to help them own the club and own the success of the club. There is no higher authority than themselves. And with this whole phenomena of, for, again, growing up as kids in a family, going to school and things like that, we're not taught really how to figure things out for ourselves and say, well, you come up with a solution. What do you think we should do to solve this problem? People are taught that there's always somebody smarter than them that knows, and then they need someone to come in and tell them what to do to solve the problem. And what turned my club around is we started solving the problems. And one of the things I always say is that, the first lesson of leadership to me is you got to learn to figure it out for yourself. Because if you're waiting for someone else to figure it out, that person's the leader. You're sitting there waiting for them to figure it out. Well, if you're the leader, you're figuring out how to make things work. And here's the thing: Toastmasters is far from a perfect program. It's a highly flawed program. They give us some tools, and it's up to us to take those tools and make it work. But what happens is that I see people come in, and I also see a lot of Toastmaster conferences where they try to tell you, oh, we know exactly how to run a club, and this is what you need to do to be successful and stuff. And I've gone to those, and I know what it takes to run a club, and most of those are maybe 50% right, and the other half is totally worthless activity. So, and each one of your clubs is different. So there's a personality based on the people. So you've got to address the people that are there. But the first step I would recommend is to get them to own it. And what I mean by that is, by owning the club, that means the meeting starts on time. That means that meeting is scheduled with all the different functionaries and speakers and speech evaluators, and the Toastmaster is ready, and there's an agenda there, and they're owning what's going on. And the officers are, and I'm going to get into the officer things in just a couple of seconds, but the officers are actually doing their jobs. Okay. And I can't understate the importance of starting a meeting on time, because that means you're ready. That means all the work's been done. You're ready to start. And these clubs that start 10, 15 minutes late, I go, it's a reflection on where they are. So the first step is to get your members to own the club, not you owning the club. As a club coach, you're getting them to own the club. Okay. And on that. So the second reason clubs fail is that nobody does the program. And there's the Toastmasters program. Now, the story I have on this is I had a friend of mine who was wanting to lose about 50 pounds, and he joined Weight Watchers. And he was in it for 6 months. I was talking to him, and he goes, I didn't lose any weight. I said, all right, because this doesn't work. I saw him about 3 months ago, and he lost the 50 pounds. I said, what'd you do? He said, I went to Weight Watchers. I said, I thought they didn't work. He goes, no, this time I did the program. And what he did before, he just went to the Weight Watcher meetings. He didn't change the way he ate. He just went to the Weight Watcher meetings. Well, there's a lot of people that just go to a Toastmasters meeting and they're not actually doing the Toastmasters program. There's a lot of clubs I've been into that allow people to speak without doing a Toastmasters speech project. There are no speeches in my club that are not a Toastmasters speech project. This is not just a place you come speak. You're in an educational program and you're working now on pathways, which I'm not going to get into that real heavy, but I'm working and working our pathways paths, and you're doing specific skill building areas on this. And so you do the point is you get people to do the program. Now, the reason I say that is what turned my club around was we wanted to be a top 10 club. So the first thing we looked at is we wanted to get everybody to complete a speaking level every year so we could get more points. So we went to our members and we didn't make it a requirement, but we recommended it strongly that we wanted everybody to get a speaking level done every year. Now there's 10 speeches in a Toastmasters speaking level in the old legacy program. And what happened was, that is actually what surprised us. That's one of the biggest things that turned the club around, was we got people doing the program. Now, as I was saying, Toastmasters to me is a little bit like going to the gym. We're exercising our communication and leadership muscles when we go to a Toastmasters program. We're working them out, figuring out how they work. And let's say you hadn't worked out in years, you went to the gym and you came home the next day and you go, oh my gosh, I'm so sore. I'm not going back to the gym for 6 months. How sore are you going to be in 6 months? You lost all the gain that you went that one day for. You're going to be sore again in 6 months. Well, there's a lot of people that come into Toastmasters and they go, they speak and they go, I was so nervous, I'm not going to speak for 6 months. Like the nervousness is going to go away. Well, what happened is when we got people to speak frequently, they started keeping the gain that they got from the past speeches, and they started to improve with every speech because they were keeping that gain. And just like when you go to the gym and work out, you have to go 3 times a week and you're going to be sore for the first 2 or 3 weeks, but after that, you're going to start feeling your muscles build. The same thing's true with Toastmasters. When you get people speaking frequently and they're doing their speech projects and they're preparing them, their life starts to change because they're actually improving and they're doing the program. Now, the program also consists, let me just hit on this, that there's 4 areas of development that we're working on in Toastmasters. There's speaking, which is table topics and prepared speeches, and we practice those. There's speech evaluation, and what we call it coaching in my club. We don't call it evaluation because the whole idea is to coach somebody to become a better speaker. But this is giving effective feedback. And this is something that as a club coach, you need to be able to give to the people that you're working with. But it's also something in work that we need to be able to build competence in other people and give them effective feedback. That's a very critical skill to have. That's the second area that we develop in Toastmasters. The third area is effective meeting management, where we know how to run a meeting. And as Toastmaster, as the general evaluator, even a little bit as table topics master, we get to run the meeting and we learn how to run a meeting. That has made a huge difference in my life, that I can run effective meetings outside of Toastmasters. And the last area is the leadership development, being an officer. The 7 officer positions in Toastmasters represent the 7 major areas of any organization, from finance to sales to marketing to like your chief operating officer, to your facilities manager, to your chief executive officer. All those roles are represented in running a Toastmasters club. So when you run a Toastmasters club, it's like that's what I say, it's an internship for running any organization. You learn how to be a team member, you learn how to be an executive, you learn how to work together as an executive team with leadership. Okay, so first area is nobody owns the club. That's why the clubs fail. The second area is they're not doing the program. And the third area is they don't promote the club. And I'm not saying they do an effective promotion. I'm saying they don't promote it. Because if you just promote on a regular basis, you'll get members, but you have to talk to people and you have to be willing to invite people to your club, and you will get guests coming to the club. It's just a matter of doing it. And I have a whole program on my website. I have a CD, or it's a download now if you want it, on how to promote and market a Toastmasters club. And I go through 6 different ways that you can, it's like marketing any business. You have to let people know you're there. And so when you look at your clubs that you're working with, the first thing I recommend, as I said, is to really work with those people and get them to own the success of their club. Get each one of them doing the program. So every meeting you have people moving through the Pathways program on a consistent basis, and they're seeing themselves make progress, and they're also getting the benefit of doing those projects. And then the third area is to look at them and get them to promote the club. And there's a lot of ideas, and there's a lot of things we did in my club that didn't work, but we did them and we found out they didn't work. So we didn't have to do them again, but we didn't sit there and go, oh, I don't think that'll work, we won't do it. We tried them, and then we figured out what worked. Every year we do a survey in my club to ask people how they got in the club, and over 80% of the people came to the club by personal invitation. It's always been one-on-one personal invitation is how we built the club. You're invited by somebody. Okay. Now there's people that I just did this online, and somebody put a seminar a couple of weeks ago, and somebody put a poll up real quick. How did you join Toastmasters? And then that one, 60% were asked, and the other 40 read about it. So they read about it online or something like that and looked for a Toastmasters club. So on that, but it's a little trickier with the COVID stuff. Because, I'm a big proponent of open houses and wine and cheese parties, and, just getting people together at somebody's house. That's not really a Toastmasters meeting, but you invite people over to have wine and cheese. And then while they're there, they meet people and they say, we'd like you to come to our Toastmasters meeting on Saturday or something. And, there's a lot of ways to promote the club, but those are the 3 things: get them to own the club, get them to do the program, get them to promote the club. And the last point I guess I'll go over with you right now, and then we can do some Q&A, is in order to build a Toastmasters club, you have to have something that people would be willing to join. And that means that the club has to be run well enough that when guests come, they go, I'd be interested in joining this. And the analogy I use for that, if you went to a new restaurant you had never been to before, and the dishes were dirty, the food is bad, and the service is poor, are you going to go back to the restaurant? No. Maybe you saw a flyer that came in the mail or something. You said, let's go try this new restaurant. If you went to the restaurant and the food was great, waitress, service is friendly, and it's clean, clean and stuff, you're going, God, this is a really nice experience, I want to come back. Well, you have to have something that's worthy of joining. And so that's why I say the people have to own their club, and they have to be proud of it enough that they have something they want people to come to, and it has something to do with them. And there's a sense of pride that happens in Toastmasters, and there's this whole human element that I don't see talked a lot about, but our life energy, our intention to make something happen, the keeping a very positive attitude in the environment, addressing problems when they come up, things like that. But our intention, our drive to actually have a successful club is something that's one of the things we had. And it's one of the things we keep in the club right now. And like I said, my club was up around 95 members in 99, and we were up through we were over 80 members through about 2005. And then we started dwindling down in 2006 to 10. We had some people that were just sort of used to, we'd always been successful. So we had officers that came in and they didn't do anything because the club's successful. They didn't realize, those of us that built it, how hard we worked to build it. And it started dwindling. And when we hit 60, then we hit 40 members. And then all of a sudden we've been down in this 30 range, and we're working to get it back up now to between 40 and 60 members, which is, to me, that's what a Toastmasters Club is. Toastmasters Club isn't 20 or 25 members; it's 40 to 60 people. Then you have a dynamic meeting, and you got a lot of people to spread the work around from. Okay, so with that, I've chatted here for about a half an hour or so, but let's, if we have some questions, that's great. Katrina, if you, rather than me trying to read the chat and stuff, if there's things coming in on chat, but this group's small enough, if we can just unmute and ask questions and have discussions, I would appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I appreciate Marta and Shelley keeping their videos on for me. It's nice to see people out there. There we go. So we got some live bodies coming back in here now. This is nice. So.
Woohoo.
So I'm going to ask the first question. Is there anything I've said that's hit a chord with what you're working with, or that you felt like that's something I made sense? Yeah, Marta's saying something. You want to tell me what you got, Marta?
I said everything.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I got some good notes, and I guess most of it is just, yeah, remembering, because we feel when we're at that level of, we feel we've learned a lot or we know a lot. There's still more, and it's good to be reminded of the basics sometimes, because you start going to some point where you think you need to know other things, but it's good to have that reminder of, yeah, this is, again, going back to the CP and following the system and following the things that are in the book and everything.
It's actually, to be honest, if you stick with the fundamentals, it's pretty simple. It's people in and people trained on the program. That's really what we're doing. New members in, and they train on the program, and their life changes, and they become enthusiastic because they can now speak better, and they're going, wow, this really works. It's not a lot more complicated than that, but we make it complicated but that's, in my experience, those are the complications that we have a tendency to manifest in our own mind or our own life, and we have to get through those so we can be successful in our own right. And that's really what all of you that are doing this, hopefully it's you're gaining more skill and abilities and competency in working with other people by being a club coach. But yes, Kathy.
I think a couple of things.
Did you ever do a survey of people who have left and find out why they have left?
We have in the past. We haven't done that recently. What typically happened with the people in our club is that they got married, they got their job changed, they got pregnant, they went back to school. They were things that didn't have to do with the club. We actually, believe it or not, we had people that moved. We're in California. We had people moved to Florida, and they paid their dues for like 10 years, and we tried to get them to stop paying their dues, and they got mad at us because they love the club so much. But exit surveys, I would say, now that's my club, but exit surveys are very important for someone. If you have a club where people are coming in and you got a lot of turnover, absolutely call the people up, ask them, we just want your feedback. We're trying to build a club. What was your experience? What was it about it that you're not coming back? So you can get that data. And again, that's figuring it out for yourself. That's what that is. That's what I'm talking about. That's figuring it out for yourself.
I think you're
Brian, give me 1 second. I'll finish with Kathy and I'll come to you.
Lance, we've had a few people that actually have left because they have improved so much with Toastmasters. Their jobs just skyrocketed, and then they had to move on. They didn't have time for us.
Okay.
And that's a good thing.
That's a really good thing. Brian, what do you have?
Oh, just around this whole thing of owning the club, I think that is really key. And then the other point that you made, as far as people being comfortable, and you see in a club that people are comfortable, and so they're not moving, and it's like being in the gym where they lose what they did. So this is such a fine presentation. I'm so happy that it's being recorded, because I really want to share it with some of my clubs.
Yeah, that whole thing about being comfortable in the club, we get comfortable with our little group of friends, and I've seen clubs where the club gets nervous if a guest comes because we have somebody new here. Oh my gosh. And you need to keep pushing yourself, pushing the edge of that envelope, so that you're expanding on an ongoing basis. And on the thing. And with that, it's like, we have really good speech evaluation in my club, but we work to have really good speech evaluation. It just doesn't happen. We work our speech evaluation. We have competitions. People are like, I want to beat Lance this week, or I got another guy, Bill, who's really good at speech evaluations. And we have people that are like, we really push, I said, that whole speech coaching component to give people good, effective feedback, not stuff that whitewashes them or kills them, but good, effective feedback on how they can be better on that. So yeah, keeping yourself, pushing on those areas. But also, like I said, the concept that you brought up too, a lot of times people join Toastmasters and they feel there's a higher authority that's going to make their club work. And that's what I talk about. There is no higher authority. This is like, you got your own Starbucks franchise, except you don't get any Starbucks management. You get to make the coffee, which is the Toastmasters program, and you got to figure out how to make it successful. So if you're running a Starbucks, or Tim Hortons, where you guys are, what would you do to be successful? And except it's a Toastmasters club. So yes, Katrina.
I have a question for you, Lance, because we get this a lot. Sometimes when a club has gotten to the point where they have very low membership, the remaining members are kind of like, oh, it's too much work, it's too hard. Did you have that in your club, and how did you turn that around?
Well, we had 35 members, and what was happening is we were down to about 12 coming to the meeting. And then I said one day 5 of us showed up and we went, let's have coffee. We didn't have a meeting. We were fortunate that we had the 35 members, and I'll tell you what we did. It was exactly what Kathy was asking. We actually called the members. That day we sat down, we said, well, let's do a survey. And let's find out why people liked coming to the club, not why are they not coming to the club. So what did you like about coming to the club? And so we split it up. We called the members, and the first thing they told us that they liked coming to the club was they like to have fun. It wasn't, I wanted to be a better speaker. I wanted to have fun. Second reason was they wanted to see their friends. They enjoyed the people in the club. They liked seeing their friends every week. And the third reason was they wanted to start improving as a speaker and a leader. And we saw exactly why our club was failing, because for 2 years in a row, we had 2 presidents who were not fun and friendly. We had one president who was very draconian in his actions, and he tried to rule with an iron fist, and he changed rules. He made speech evaluation pass fail. Nobody's going to be a competent communicator in this club unless you're competent. And so if you did your icebreaker and it wasn't good, you do it again until you get it right, and then you can move on to speech 2. I had people that were leaving the club just because they were flunking speeches, and there's nothing in Toastmasters like that. He had fines if you were late to the meeting, and once he gavelled down, if you walked in 30 seconds later, he would call you out and say you owed the fine. And so it just became an unpleasant, it became an unfriendly area. And the second president was just this really quiet, meek guy who had no energy, and he would take forever to start the meeting. It wasn't that he was he wasn't mean, he just wasn't enthusiastic, and so when you start your meeting, you got to start it off and keep that meeting moving really, really quickly. So we write our own policy in our club. So we have like table topics calling policy on what order you get called on, and so that you don't call a speaker, you call people that aren't speaking and things. But we have a policy in the club said that we have to maintain the number one policy is we maintain a fun, friendly environment. And if anything ceases to be fun and friendly, we handle it before the end of the meeting. Because as soon as our fun quotient falls out, the meeting starts to go by the rails. Because I can go to a family reunion and get told what an incredibly stupid, incompetent person I am. I don't have to go to Toastmasters to do that, So I can go to work, go to my family reunion, and do that. So Toastmasters got to be fun and friendly. So, but yeah, you're actually. You're right. When these clubs get really small, you've got to here's what happens. People have a purpose for doing Toastmasters. And we don't talk about purpose in Toastmasters a lot, but the difference between like doing something, you have a purpose. I don't care to become a better. I had a huge purpose for being in Toastmasters. I wanted to be a speaker. I wanted to impact the world. I wanted to be more effective as a leader. I wanted to be successful in running organizations. And here was an opportunity for me to do that. Okay, so I had a huge purpose for being there. But what happens is if you're in a club and everybody's leaving, that purpose for joining it can fail, or it can wane away, and the person loses their purpose. When you lose your purpose in life, you lose your life, because life is purpose. I do a whole thing on life, and my definition of life is imbuing energy into your purpose. The most alive you'll ever feel is if you're putting energy into the purposes you have in life. And so there are these clubs that are struggling and failing, and they've lost their purpose. Well, you have to revitalize it. Doesn't mean it doesn't mean it's dead. You just have to revitalize it. You got to talk to them. Why'd you join it? Why? Yeah, exactly. Mark, you got to give them some resuscitation there. You got to, come on. Why'd you join Toastmasters? Why do you show up every day? Well, okay. And then they finally say, well, I really wanted to plop. It plops out on the table, and you go, okay, good. We're going to help you do that. We're going to help you do that. Let's get going on. Do you guys want to help other people? When Kathy was saying people were so successful when they came in the club that they left, well, one of the reasons I've stayed in the club and I've stayed in Toastmasters, one of the reasons I'm on the call with you today and I'm not watching my football game is the fact that there's two sides to Toastmasters. One of them is you getting your personal gain of learning how to do something. The other is you making other people more competent and giving back to the organization. And to me, the real product we deliver in Toastmasters is an individual that can build competency in another individual. It's not a competent communicator. It's not a competent leader. It's a person who can make another person a competent communicator or a competent leader. And that's what you're doing as club coaches. This is really what this program is about. My ability to speak is fine. My ability to lead is fine, but my ability to help other people speak or help other people lead is the area where I get the biggest growth, and the biggest benefit is seeing other people have their life come together like mine came together for me in this organization. Yeah. So with that, so to revitalize that too, for building the club, they have to want to help other people. And the club's as successful as you're helping other people.
Lance.
Yes.
By the way, the score is 28-23 bucks.
Okay,
just
great.
In case you didn't know that.
Well, George keeps coming in here, but I don't want to turn over and go, what? I've tried to keep my focus right here on you, but thanks. And okay, I'm missing a really dynamic second half right now. So
sure, but we know it'll come down to the last 2 minutes, and you'll be done by then.
Okay.
Just want to ask you a couple of questions. Does
Sure.
Toastmasters still have a ranking of the top clubs in the world? Because I've never known about this, and I would like to know about it now. Because I'm not a coach here, but people in my club are telling me we have too many members. So I'd really like to get that ranking.
Well, here's the thing. They don't have the ranking, and I'll just tell you, my viewpoint on Toastmasters International is if you want to study an organization to figure out what not to do, study Toastmasters International. They'll show you exactly what not to do in an organization. And when they did away with that DCP program, that's what built my club. And here's the point, instead of getting clubs to duplicate and apply the Distinguished Club program, they said, oh, it's too complicated. We're going to make it really easy with 10 points, and everybody gets a gold ribbon if they get 10 points. Well, that's like getting a gold medal in the Olympics for running a 30-minute mile. To be a President's Distinguished Club right now, your club can completely fail, and you can be President's Distinguished. So the Distinguished Club program does not rank. If you do that program, it doesn't mean you're successful. The other one, we got points for every single speech completion, every single new member. We got points for every newsletter we put out. We got points for doing youth leadership programs and speech crafts. And that's how we built those points up. We were doing all that stuff, and it built our club. But here's what I'm going to say. If people are giving you, I'm a huge proponent of big clubs, strong clubs. And when my club was even at 60, 70 people, we had district leaders coming in trying to break us up. You need to split into 2 clubs. And people asked me that, and I said, did anybody ever say you need to split your club? And I said, well, one person did, and I broke their nose, and nobody ever asked me that again. But here's the thing. I said, they don't want to join a Toastmasters club. They want to join our Toastmasters clubs. There's plenty of namby-pamby Toastmasters clubs down the street that they can go join. We have a kick-ass Toastmasters club, and they want to join one of the top clubs in the world. That's why they're joining us. But here's what I was in Singapore, and there's a Singapore Toastmasters club, which was the first Toastmasters club in Singapore. They have over 100 members. But what they do, and I think this is a great model, is every year they spin off a new club. So they don't split their club, but they start a new club with members who know how to run a Toastmasters club, who remain members in Singapore Toastmasters, but they go out and start a new club with 20 members that know how to run a club. And so they've started like 20 or 25 clubs in Toastmasters that are successful clubs. So one of the things I recommend you do is if people are giving you, they're trying to get you to split, say you have too many members and you need to split the club, take some of your key members who aren't officers and say, we're going to start a new club for you, but keep your club strong, keep it together. So anyway, I hope that makes sense. So, okay, anybody else on this?
Maybe one more question, and then
Sure, Brian.
I'm interested in how, where you have someone who wants to succeed and you want to either offer them mentoring or coaching, but they just, for some reason, just don't take advantage of it. How have you worked with that type of person? How have you helped them get going?
You mean like somebody who calls me up and pays me to speech coach them and then won't do anything that I recommend in their speech coaching?
Well, sort of like that.
Yeah, usually I'll charge them double the next time because I said, I evidently, I'm not charging you enough because you're not taking my recommendations. Here's what I would look at. First of all, you have to separate out, is this person actually willing to have a mentor? Are they saying they want to be successful, but they're not willing to do the work? And if they are willing to do the work, is having that conversation I was talking to them about, I'm willing to help you, but this demands something of them. I'm willing to help you. I'm willing to be a mentor. I'm willing to find you a mentor. But if I'm going to find you a mentor, you better use the mentor, because I don't want my reputation tarnished because I set you up with, I got someone to be your mentor and then you were a bad mentee. Okay. And it's what that tells me is the person has a low sense of personal responsibility, and you set them up with a mentor, but then they don't take advantage of it and they don't do anything. It's like, well, wait a second, this guy went and worked to put me in touch with this person. I better make sure that I appreciate that and I hold up my end of the bargain. And I'll just get a personal experience with me. I joined NSA, the National Speakers Association, probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And I was so busy speaking, I hadn't joined them because every time they had a meeting, I was out speaking someplace. And then I wanted to shift my speaking business. So the president of the chapter was talking to me about it. And he goes, no, I'll tell you what, Lance, I see exactly where you are. You join, I'm going to see I'm going to see you have a great mentor. I'm going to get someone that'll really help you. And I said, okay, great. So I took his word on it. Gave me a guy named Terry Paulson, who's one of the past presidents of the National Speakers Association internationally or nationally, and he's like legacy in the legacy speakers program. He's one of the most honored speakers in all of NSA. Is the guy he got as my mentor. And I had 3 or 4 meetings with him, and I always made sure I was right there, and I had all my stuff together. Those 3 or 4 meetings were worth the entire amount of money I paid to join NSA, to be able to sit down with that guy and talk to him and have him do me, but I have him work with me. But I knew that I had a golden opportunity with what had been set up, and I wasn't going to miss that. I wasn't going to screw that up. But had I not shown up and I hadn't returned phone calls and I hadn't picked up the ball on my end, I would have made the guy that got Terry to agree to take me look really bad. Okay. And so anyway, push their responsibility for their own success is what I would really recommend, and what they're experiencing, you're giving them help, but they're not taking advantage of it. You just say, that's why you're not being as successful as you want. You need to change the way you're operating. So anybody else? We've got some hands.
Lance. Yeah, Lance.
Yeah, Ron.
You made a comment, which I just think is so wise and profound, because you're coming from outside of our district. And you said in your club, 80% of the people who are in your club are there because somebody from their club invited them. They're proud about their club and they say, hey, you should come and see what we're doing, that type of thing. That's my experience in my home club, and it's been that way for years. When I tell other clubs this is the stage they need to get to, they want to find other ways to invite people to the club, which don't necessarily work. I'd like to see, they try to get really cold names where there's nothing better than a warm name. Hey, why don't you come to my club? We work together. you like some of the things I'm saying, why don't you come to my, which is the best way to invite somebody. So I'd like to hear your experience on that.
Well, first of all, the way I got into Toastmasters, I had a friend of mine ask me to come to the club 8 times.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a world champion speaker. I built one of the most successful clubs in Toastmasters. I had to be asked 8 times to come to the club. Yeah, people may, I understand exactly what, let's get a cold email list. We don't even know if the emails are active, and we'll mail to it so we get new members. On the thing, it's keeping it light, keeping it fun. That's the biggest thing I could say. And having, one of the things I go over, and I want to let you know, I put my website, it's lancemillerspeaks.com. I have free speaking tips cards. I got free speech evaluation tips cards, and I have free building a championship club tips cards that you can download. I also have audio programs you can buy and download, but I'm not trying to sell this stuff to you, but you're welcome to buy them if you want them. On building it, I have a building a championship club, promoting and marketing a championship club, leadership for a championship club. I've got all these audios that I've done. But with that is that in promoting the club, I say keeping it fun and simple, and giving the members little things they can do, so that you don't just say, you go find new members. You say, like we had one time, I thought it was the stupidest thing I ever saw. We had a VP of public relations. It was around Easter, and she came in a little Bo Peep, suit with this big basket of green Easter eggs, the plastic Easter eggs. And she went pouncing around the room saying, take some Easter eggs, take some Easter eggs. And I was like, oh, stupid Easter eggs. And they had a chocolate kiss in them, and they had an invitation to the Toastmasters Club. And I took like 3 Easter eggs and stuffed them in my briefcase. And I'm going, this is stupid. I can't believe she did this. She wasted so much time. And she's prancing around with her little Bo Peep hat on and things. I took the Easter eggs to work, and I opened my bag up, and the next morning I went, oh, I got those Easter eggs. So I put them on. I was a VP of sales for an internet company. I put them on 3 people's desk. 3 of them came to the meeting and 1 joined. They opened it up, and they go, oh, chocolate. And then they went, oh, there's an invitation. Oh, I've wanted to join Toastmasters. So, again, you just ask, the simplicity is having events that people want to come to, that the club is excited to invite their friends to. That's why I said like a wine and cheese party is something, it's a no-brainer. One of the things I recommend to a lot of clubs that, like they're a noonday club, and they have a 1-hour meeting, and they have 30 people in it, and they can't get everybody through their speaking. I said, go to a bar once a month on a Thursday night, and have 8 speakers, and drink beer and throw peanuts on the floor, or go meet at somebody's house on a Saturday afternoon and have a speech thing there, but you have 2 or 3 hours and everybody speaks and has a fun time. Totally change the dynamic of your club on it. You can invite guests to it. And then one of the other components with that, I just had that thought and it disappeared, and I hate it when that does. I was going to make a really important point. I'll think of it in a second. But okay, so I hate it when that happens. It was right there. It just went away.
I had a question a minute ago and I forgot what it was.
Oh, now I just remembered. Let me tell you. When we built my club, we didn't cap the production of the club to the number of to the time of the club. Like, like we have a 3-hour meeting with 6 speeches. That gives us 300 speeches in a Toastmasters year, which would give us a total of 30 education completions, because there's 10 speeches in education completion. We went to double meetings the second half of the year to service our membership so that everybody could get through their speaking levels. We increased our delivery based on the demand the club gave us, just like you do in a business. If all of a sudden you got a big client and you go, well, I know, but we just work till 5 o'clock and then we don't have enough time to get all the work done. You put a second shift on and you get the work done. So we put a second shift on, went to 2 meetings a week, second half of the year, and on it, just as an example, we figured things out for ourselves. Really want to. So somebody's going to say something there. Was that you, Daisy? Or
no, I was just saying that I thought of a question and I forgot.
Okay. Yes.
Sure, I can ask.
Okay, Daisy.
So
you have all the coaches, any coaches in Canada? All the coaches are in America, everywhere else, Saudi Arabia. It's really kind of funny. I never knew any names here.
Okay. Daisy, what do you have?
So as a club coach, we're new to our coaching club. How do we gain trust? How do we convince them that, hey, you need to change it, just try something new. Here is my strategy. But how do we build those trust between coach and club?
Here's what I recommend. Don't go in and saying, here's my strategy. Talk to them about what their goals are. What are your goals? What do you want to see your club? You know, and I ideally, how big would you like to see your club be? Do you want to have 20 members? Do you want to have 40 members? You know, let's dream about this. Tell me what you want to see with your club, and get them to originate what they want to be with their club. Because I'm going to guarantee you the problem they have right now is they are assigning their success to people, to sources outside of themselves. And if you come in and say, this is what I want you to do, you're feeding into that mechanism. Your role as a club coach is to get them to own the club and own their success. So figure out what they want to do, and then you help them achieve what they want to do.
Okay, got it.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Because you want to address the personal choice of the individual and not enforce a choice on them, because that is the problem. That's what we're breaking out. Toastmasters is helping us break out of that from that authoritative enforcement on top of us that's coming, you know, that I said we started when we were kids with our parents, and there's no way around this. I mean, you know, you're a kid, you got to have parents, right? You go to school, you got to have a teacher, you know, but what happens, we sort of get hypnotized socially that our success is up to somebody else to tell us that we can now have a promotion or something. Yeah.
Sorry,
Okay.
I was just gonna see if the caller has a question, since it's harder to raise hand on the phone.
I got Chuck and Bev LeBlanc on there. I want to say hi to them. We had some fun times up in District 42 with you guys. So, hey, Bev, good to see you.
Hi, Zoom Braham, do you have any question?
Okay. Now, I'm just going to repeat. I got a lot of resources on my website that are free downloads, and I got a lot of resources on my website. And actually, I think Bev bought a lot of my CDs when she was district governor on building a championship club that I think were very beneficial. And unfortunately, I made them back in 2006, and we had the legacy program, but all the concepts still apply. It's just the names have changed. I think we had a CTM back then, you know, instead of a CC, you know, and stuff. So
Lance,
After watching your, sorry, Beth.
No, that's okay. Speaking of those CDs, and you remember that we took that interview and took out the interviewer and
Right.
pretended we asked you questions. We've used that at training several times, and everybody says that's the best training we've ever had. So
oh, fantastic.
it still works.
Fantastic. Okay.
I like to ask a question.
Yes.
Some members are saying, I used to be in Prince George, BC members, and then I'm in Calgary. Now, some people are saying that the pathway is a little bit harder. And we used to be so used to with the books, go with the pages, go with the stories and go on it. How to convince them that this is easier? And this is, even I'm finding it harder. I have to go in the evaluation, learn so much technology. It's getting harder and harder and getting easier too. You keep doing. How do you convince that to the people?
Pathways is what we have.
That's all we have.
It's what we have. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to go down that road because you're not going to get a lot of like accolades coming at me for pathways.
Exactly.
But it's what we have, and I'm working on my third level 5 right now. Okay, and I've done 2 level 5 so far. I'm halfway through my third one. It's what I had to work with in Toastmasters. And I'll just say this: we used to play a game with a ball and a net. It was called basketball. We now play a game with a ball and net, and it's called water polo. Okay. And it's got a ball and a net, but it's you know, it used to be on a court, and now we're swimming around. Okay. It's a
That's a good point. Sitting around and looking, yeah.
You know, but anyway, it's what we have. It's what we work with. And the bottom line is just do the freaking program, and it's just making it work and doing it. And Toastmasters International is going to have to sort out pathways, you know, as we give them our feedback when we need to give them our feedback. So,
Yeah.
So Lance, I would think we should have one more question, and then I want to release you for that football game.
Okay. Okay. Marge, did you put up your hand or someone else?
Yeah, I actually do have a question, and it's regarding working with the executive. What I find is struggling clubs tend to put people into the executive, but the people really don't want to take ownership of their role. And I find frequently they're put into the VP membership or the VPPR roles. And those ones are the ones when your club's struggling, you need somebody that wants to work at that role. Do you have any suggestions for how to handle that?
Well, a couple of things I'm going to recommend. Some stuff on my website with membership and PR specifically. I have a very effective CD on how to promote and market a Toastmasters Club that, or it's a download or a CD, you can get it either way. All I'm going to say, it's $20. And again, I'm not here to sell you stuff, but if $20 solves the problem, that's a cheap fix, right? Even if you got one of those and you took it around and played it to all your clubs, it's going to give them the ideas on how they can succeed. But here's what I recommend, Marge. That person you're dealing with wants to be more successful in life in some way. And what you have to do is figure out how do they want to be more successful in life, and how is being a good VP, Vice President of Membership, or Vice President of PR, or President, whatever, going to help them achieve their goals in life. And remember when I was talking about my definition of life is imbuing energy into your purpose. We all have a purpose in life. And if we find something that allows us to achieve that purpose greater, we feel more alive. And that's what we have to align Toastmasters to, is that Toastmasters will help me become a better whatever that is. And that's really what I use the whole program for. You know, I came in and I was like, you know, I can do speeches and nobody's going to fire me. This is great. So.
Well, Lance, I want to free you for that football game, but more than anything, I want to thank you for joining us today. Thank you for giving up your time, especially when there's a football game on. It is such an honor to have you, and I think this was the perfect way to kick off coaching in District 42 for 2021, and I sincerely thank you from the bottom of my heart for your time and for your wisdom.
Well, this is really a labor of love for me. It really is. And my greatest wish for all of you is that, you know, you're able to really help your clubs, and you get to experience the joy of seeing other people be more competent and achieve some greater success in life based on your assistance in your hands. And we need more of this in the world, is people helping each other, being as good as they can be. So Katrina, thank you for the opportunity to come up and speak to you. I have a long history with 42, and I've enjoyed my trips up there many, many times. So anyway, I'm gonna go watch my game. Okay.
And I hope the right team wins, which is Green Bay.